Awesome. Oh, I'm excited. Cool. Oh, yay, it worked.
Hmm.
Cool. So
Okay.
just pretty much just want to just talk. I sent you the different questions just to kind of like give us like a structure kind of thing. But wherever the conversation goes, that's fine. I mean, we talked about it a little bit the other day. It's just like the emotional healing and like what that journey's been like with John. Like when we first started working together, what you were saying, he was just kind of stuck in a space and not being able to really get through what was perseverating and what he was struggling with. And so like kind of just tell me like about what that change has been since you've been able to see him kind of release some of this stuff and like work through it with all the different therapies and stuff that you've been doing with him.
Yeah. More specifically, I feel like for the longest time, since in this journey, I've asked about the emotional piece because I've always been someone that's believes in emotional healing and that what we feel or think or talk to ourselves, we feel it in our body. It presents ourselves in our body. And with him, I knew his background of growing up. I knew, being in the military. I felt like he's such a warrior that stuff he just wasn't being able to resolve it because he couldn't speak it. And so every time I brought that up, it was kind of like, okay, we'll do a medication, or there's really nothing we can do because he can't verbalize. And I just felt like we were hitting brick walls. And then he started perseverating his past. And I knew that I was like, it just kept going on. And I didn't have the tools, and I was guided to you guys. And since we've started with you all, it's continually gotten better. And where we were when we first started working with you guys, we were into that perseveration of the past and trauma for months, like good 4 months or so. And it was just constant and taking that on every day. And then, he was feeling that, but I was also internalizing that. So it was just kind of like a constant circle. And it was holding him back on a cognitive level. And since we started doing this work, I mean, he's just talking more and more and more. It was like we unlocked the key. We opened it up and was like, okay, free. Yeah.
That's a great way to describe it. That's essentially like that emotional work. That's exactly what it is. It's cutting those limbic loops. It's letting that be free so that he's not trapped with that survival, that trigger, that survival.
Right. And it was because you could see it in his eyes he wanted more, but he couldn't verbalize it. And I think a lot of people get stuck in, I really don't want to talk about the past. I really don't want to go think of it logically. What's done in the past is the past, right? But there is a piece of it we have to finish. I've always thought of, you need to finish the memories or you need to process everything. And that's what I feel like we were able to do on a more deeper level rather than just talking about it. Because like when I would go to a therapy or something like that and talk, I always felt like I left with these things that I needed to work on or I needed to think about, or you know what I mean? And in this kind of work, it's so much deeper than that it almost, you leave and you feel lifted up rather than feeling like this storm or cloud on top of you after talking about it, right?
Absolutely. Yes. And obviously we could tell a difference even, just his face, like how his face would change with like doing some of the big things that came up. It was like, yeah, his body's really working to process through this. But luckily with all the therapies and other things that you have to support his system and you being there as his support person, he did amazing getting through some of the big emotional stuff that he had come up.
It was pretty fascinating how much the vibe has changed.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Even just from talking, like we were saying the other day, like from talking, week to week, it's like, holy smokes, look at how much his face is he continues to change with all the things, his processing.
Yeah.
He is just so amazing and so strong.
Yeah.
Because that emotional stuff is not easy stuff to work through. We all know that. So
but it was exactly what he needed too.
Yep.
It felt so right. And it wasn't asking too much of him because sometimes the trauma in the past were really hard to go back to. Like I said, talking through it and trying to, I did a lot of studying before working with you guys and understanding that, when you have traumatic situations, typically you don't store the memory in a way that you can verbalize it. So then when you're trying to go back to that memory and trying to verbalize it, but you can't find the words, how are you going to process it? So it was like just like God always does, he let you guys into our life, and this technique allows you to get into that memory without having to find those words that you aren't actually, because I believe in the brain, like when you go through trauma, the speech or the words to talk about it don't store. Something
Sure.
I don't, yeah.
Sure, yeah, but that memory's in there. And even like there were times that we'd come up to and he couldn't verbalize and couldn't remember exactly what had happened. But through testing, you could see that there was definitely a reaction. His face, his eyes, everything changed. And it was like, there's something there. And then
Yes.
watching him process through is just amazing. Like, just, he's done some really tough work. I mean, the whole journey, the whole 3 years, it's been amazing watching your journey. But yeah, the emotional stuff, that can be pretty tough, but he took it and was pretty strong working through all of that stuff.
Yes, he just blossomed since. And I really encourage a lot of people that are going through any kind of situation like this. It trauma is trauma. I mean, we can't avoid it, and it's going to play a part in who we are, especially when it's traumatic, or like in a situation like somebody gets injured and it's like you're all there with them. And I was actually talking to a friend the other day, and it's really getting hard for her, and she just, she just doesn't know what to do. And I told her, just lay your hands on her heart center, like her daughter's heart center. And I said, just sit there and touch her with love, because I know on an energetic level, the one that is suffering, like is feeling the energy of you. So I always recommend caregivers take care of yourself and do this work as well, because whatever you vibrate or put out, they're going to feel, and it's going to affect their healing.
Absolutely. And that's what's so important, like with being able to work on you too, is, I mean, my goodness, you have done so much. I mean, all the stuff, I mean, everything that changed in your life, and people just don't realize just how much the caregiver is expending, with obviously good reason, but that is a lot on your system. That takes its toll.
Yes. And the patience that one has to have. And that's tough for people, and people
Sure.
to let go and surrender and be in the process of it all. So I feel like this work gives you that, any kind of the energetic work, or working on, these going and releasing past, parts of the journey, will help that caregiver sit in the place of uncertainty and sitting in that, just waiting for the next thing. Because especially with the brain injury, no one doctor is going to have it, like as far as like the medical and stuff. It is taking one step at a time,
And your whole journey has been like that. That's been what's, I think, so refreshing, is to see the different avenues that you've taken, that you've tried, the things that you've introduced for this to be, it isn't just one person I mean, there's so many hands that are going to be involved, and people that have their own gifts that can come and share to help, further that journey. And, being able to, like, I know when you guys go to see Dr. At Apex Brain Centers, that you started getting some work done. And I just commend you for that, because you're just making yourself that much better so that you can be that much better for John. And you've said that. So I love that you realize that. I think a lot of people, the caregivers, do feel like almost like a sense of guilt of taking care of myself when I have, someone, my patient, my friend, my family member, whoever it is that they're the caregiver for, to take care of. But I know we've talked about in the past that, if you don't have anything more to pour, then you are no good for somebody. So you taking care of yourself, I think, is, in your videos that you had up on Instagram, of like your eyes on day one when you're sitting there holding your eyes open.
Hold them open. I was watching that screen. I was like, do I have to keep my eyes open? He's like, yeah. So he gave me pillows, like, to pull my eyes open.
It was such a great depiction, though, of a before and after, of like how much, you didn't realize that you were struggling, but then you were able to do some things to help you so that, you're, feeling better. And we know with that limbic response too, with that part of our brain, that emotional brain, that survival brain, that if that part is running your brain, if that's the part that is the main focus, then everything is fearful to you. Everything's coming in as a threat to your system. And that's not a good place to be. Just like with everything that's going on in our world today, everybody is seeing this as a threat. Stay away from people. You don't want to breathe near people, touch things. And that just puts us in that fear mode. And that's not healthy. Rest, digest, and and take care of us. So
right. And then especially like in a situation like this, you know, when you're depleted like that, your immune system's so low, and then you get sick, and that doesn't help when you're a caregiver. You know, how do you help them when you're sick? So I knew all along that it was going to come to place that I would find the right tools to take care of myself emotionally, because I did not feel like talk therapy was like my go-to. I felt like the layers were deeper.
sure. Yep. And what's great about these techniques is that a lot of because, therapists are mind doctors, as we, as we call them, and us chiropractors being the body docs, is that they've started doing this work as well as also like the EMDR work that, we'll do with John after, and you as well, after doing a session. Just to help really let go of that emotional tie to whatever that memory is, whatever that trigger is that you weren't able to process through at whatever point in your life. I'm hoping to see this kind of stuff really start, being more used by our medical community, so that we can help people with such an important part of healing, is healing that emotional part in everything.
Oh, yeah, there's just so much. I feel like with what's going on in the world, I think that we're heading in a way of people more understanding frequency and energy. Like that's what we're all made of, and it's not anything like mystical and stuff like that. It's just reality. That is what it is. I mean, what do you think how people talk on the radio? It's a frequency, right? It's nothing to be afraid of, and it's nothing that. So I do believe people are going to understand that more and more, and especially like with emotions, you want everything to flow through your body, and when things are stuck or you're having this nagging pain, even when I taught Pilates, I knew that something was connected to that, and realizing that your body will speak to you. What is that? The word? I love the book. Oh gosh, I'm not going to think it off the top of my head. But what is your body trying to tell you? It's a really good book, and it's like,
oh, cool.
Like I've really correlated, like if my throat hurts, it's something I need to say out loud to somebody or something.
Yep. Isn't that amazing too? And then that just clears up, or your eyes are bugging you, or your ears are bugging you. What don't you want to see? What don't you want to hear right now? And our bodies are so amazing and powerful, and giving us things, little info, bits of knowledge. And we're just so used to turning that off and not listening to it. But I agree with you. I think people are really starting to come around to, more of a natural, looking into myself and how I can kind of help balance myself and listen to what's going on, like different things, different pains that come up in your body, and what is that trying to tell you, and what can we work on to help get through that?
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah. So for any of those caregivers, like people that are out there that maybe don't realize the things that, you do that are so self-serving to you and taking care of you, what's something that maybe you'd want to tell them to kind of give them that support to, look at you and take care of you too?
Yes. I think number one would be saying that you're suffering just as much as they are. Like you're internalizing what they are internalizing, even if that, you can cope with it a different way. Trauma or anything that's life-changing like that, or caring for someone else on that level, is going to affect you. So just being aware of that, even if you don't think it's affecting you, right? And I'd say be proactive. Just start making time every day for yourself, and finding little patterns or little things to do every day, like a pattern to do every day. And taking care of yourself is only but going to help them, because your energy is going to reflect their healing.
Absolutely. What are some of the things that you recommend, like some of the things that you do for yourself? Like, I know you go running every day and try to do your stretches and stuff, which is so serving to your mind and body. What are other kind of things that you do that are to make sure you're taking care of Laura?
Yes, I try to take a bath at night before going to bed, just kind of like have some time. And after I put him to bed, that's always really nice. Also learning to say no, and learning to, when you're caring for someone else and it's like full time, and, I was always somebody that said yes before this accident. And once it came, I was putting too much pressure on myself to do everything, or to answer everyone, or to be. And I just realized my focus and where I needed to be was right here with John, that I had to start learning how to say no and not feeling bad if you don't get back to somebody, not feeling bad if you don't answer all your emails. Like, we live in that world that it's so convenient to get in touch with each other. But at the same time, people understand. And those that don't, then maybe that's the wrong person, right? So I think putting on yourself, not feeling like you have to care for everyone else as well as the person you're caring for. So you got to care for yourself, then care for them. And then when you have extra time then get to everything else.
That's brilliant. That saying no is so hard for so many people, just day to day, but with being a caregiver on top of it, like, I can't even imagine the way that must have felt so stretching on you to constantly feel like you had everything for everybody, do this, do that. That's taxing. That's exhausting.
And finding boundaries too,
Ooh, yes.
That's a tough one as well, because it's, you're getting insight from everyone, like, do this, do that, do this. And it's hard because it is a lot of work on, a lot of we are very blessed. We have a lot of, team of functional neurologists working with us, and we get information from everyone. But what I try to do is in that day, sense what he needs, not feeling the pressure I have to do everything, because the brain will actually get smart and just do a pattern of it all the time, so switching it up and just taking the tools when they feel right, and not having like a checklist. It's not a checklist. I mean, we all don't live in a checklist, and just enjoying the journey.
Yeah. Well, when you have that checklist, that's just another thing you have to do, is I have to get to this, I have to do that. And then you're coming from a place of stress. And is that serving to the person you're helping?
Right. And just like when I was telling my friend, just lay your hand in touch with love. That is so much more powerful than an hour of therapy.
Yeah.
If you think about it, like an hour of stressful therapy. And, with John, I think one thing that I try to stress to a lot of people is, with the brain fatigues. We all know that.
Yeah.
And less is more sometimes. And there also is sometimes cons to doing too much. I spoke to a caregiver one time maybe a year or two ago, and they were just saying, he just seems like he's, tired all the time and all this. And she said they'd been doing therapy for 2.5 years, 6 days a week, 3 hours a day. I said, maybe just take a week off, it's not going to hurt him.
No, that's such great recommendation. Just be in the moment and just kind of let everything just integrate.
Since being home with all this going on, he's blossomed even more, because maybe he needed a break from all the different places and things we were doing, Yeah. But,
yes. Sometimes it feels like this being at home, this stay home, has really opened up a lot of people's eyes everywhere. I know we've talked about this a couple times, of just resting. You're not off running to this appointment or that appointment, but you're able to just kind of be. And we just don't do that present day, just be, as well as we should be doing on a day-to-day basis.
We're freeing when we do, though,
It is.
I think a lot of people are realizing that right now. It's so amazing going out for a run, and I see all these families out on their bicycles getting fresh air. I'm like, and there's no pollution in the sky. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just heaven on earth right now. It's so gorgeous, and it's so what we're meant to be doing.
I agree.
A lot of writing on my page about stillness and being in the moment, and and I've learned that in this journey, because I was at the top of my Pilates world. John was the Navy SEAL, and he was deploying and doing all this stuff, and we were living our lives. Now we still had faith, and we believed, and we did, I did all this. I was still like very connected to my body and everything with the work I was doing, but we were going about our way. And then all of a sudden, just like everyone's getting today, we were stopped, everything stopped, just like this virus. They had just closed the world, or their US down. And there's something powerful about that. And we've grown even more being in that space of stillness.
I love that. Yeah, there's something about connecting to that stillness, and it's maybe uncomfortable in the beginning, and it's something that we're so not used to. We've conditioned our bodies and our minds to be busy, busy, busy all the time. But getting to that space, definitely. I know we've talked a lot about that, with like connecting to an area maybe that's bothering you or something, like you were saying with your throat, and reflecting like what's going on inside. Let me check in with myself and see what's going on.
Right.
And being able to, do the work, do the, intentional stuff, like honoring yourself that you're still, doing your movements, that you're keeping yourself moving and running and all of these, good for your body things and your mind. It's awesome.
I can't even tell you, once we've unlocked, I mean, he was stuck in trauma and it was just this limbic loop. I mean, it just, same people, same things. I mean, we were up at night and he would just repeat.
That's what
we
you're
weren't even sleep. And it was, he just couldn't break through it. And once we started, and like I said, unlocking that, it's just, he's blossoming.
Yeah.
It's like freedom. He let go of, it was like a release for him.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like we were talking about yesterday, like all the past stuff that he was so like wrapped up in talking about. Now it's all these things like, the lawnmower. He wants to get on that lawnmower.
It's just, oh my gosh, he is such, he's pushing forward. He's seeing, it's like you guys said, we weren't stuck in negative and we were in a different part. It was all positive, like his future and what he wants. He wants kids, he wants a motorcycle, he wants a lawnmower, he wants this, it's like, he's joyful. He's ready to do it. Yeah.
Well, and I don't think it nearly is enough, and because I know how humble of a person you are, the credit of all the work and listening to your intuition and sticking by his side of, like you said, instead of having a checklist of all the things I need to do, listening to what he needs in that moment, in that day. It's amazing. It's been really cool watching, going back. I've caught up on a lot of different videos. I didn't realize there were so many videos out there, but to see the journey and to see like, you just trust. And that is such a problem for most people in this day and age, that you're inspirational. You're a big piece of hope that you can trust this journey and trust that you're giving all that needs to be for, the person you love, whether that be your child or your husband or your wife. And look at what he's done by you having that trust in God and in your, people coming into your life that needed to be there when they needed to be there. I mean, it's cool. It gives me chills just thinking about just all the cool, amazing blessings that have come out of you staying true and just, yeah, it's amazing.
One thing I just thought of as you were saying that is, one thing I'd always say to myself when we were in a moment that was really tough, is reminding myself it's only temporary.
Yep.
I think in any aspect of our life, we can remember that anything that we don't like or, it's bothering us or it's temporary, we can always change.
Yep.
So in those moments that it's really dark, and just believing that we're getting further, just be here in this right now and let him process through it and let him experience the journey.
Yep. Even the hard parts, even the hard traumas that had to come up. I mean, it's one of the hardest things, leading people through this, talking people through old traumas, but you have to go through it. And once you face that, then, like you said, you can unlock that piece and you can move forward. It's just ugly and hurts and is icky for a minute, but then you're pushing through and so much growth comes out of that.
Right. And it's almost so subtle too. I mean, it is in the sense for those that have never done this kind of work, it's subtle that it doesn't bring it up to a point that it's like looking back, I'm like, how did we get right here? Like it's gone, so it wasn't, it was tough work, but it wasn't it didn't take us down, down. I don't know. It was uplifting, powerful, I guess, freeing for people. Yeah.
Well, and you were doing a lot of extra things too to help support his system while he was going through that. Because definitely, things can come up that are very traumatic and hard to get through without proper support. And with talk therapy, definitely there's, a perk to all of these different kinds of therapies. But I feel like with the kind of therapy that we've been doing with him, it frees, but then you have all these support things that you've already done in the past that just added to giving him we're going to get through this and it's going to be okay. And we're going to see the light on the other side. And that was huge I believe huge for him.
Yes.
Yep. And you too. I'm glad that we had some big things come up the last time that we were working, and it was definitely fun watching your face change as you were working through your stuff. So high five to you for doing all the work that you're doing to keep yourself.
You're amazing. You're amazing. So yeah, it's helped so much, both of us, really. It's it's a journey together, the caregiver and the person going through whatever they are going through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, girl. Have a good rest of the day.
You too. Bye.